Come on in, it's not too late. So, thanks for coming out. I appreciate you being here. It was a great event last night. It was fun to come down and be a part of that too. And yes, this man, so part of my introduction is, it used to be, I would say, well, hi, I'm Teresa Nelson, and I'll give you a little bit of that too, but my line used to be, no kids, no pets, no spouse. Well, this guy doesn't like that introduction anymore because he's my new husband. And so now he's decided he's my cute assistant. So it was great for him to come down and join us. Thank you, Dean, for handing out the supplies. I really appreciate that. So I am Teresa Nelson. I have been with the LCMS Foundation for 7.5 years now, which that time has just flown. I cannot believe how quickly it goes. Been doing this kind of work, working in the development field with charitable gift planning for almost 17 years now, and that even is more freaky to my brain. Whoever those Arizona folks were that had joined you, I was like, oh, I remember those days when it was sunny 340 days a year and it didn't get cold like this and we didn't have snow. I lived in Arizona for a time. God has moved me around the country quite a bit. I'm an Iowa farm kid at heart. Grew up in Iowa, lived there until I went to college, went to Iowa State. So I'm one of those, awesome, me too, yeah. So I went from teeny town Terrell, Iowa, 23 people, to college campus of 25,000. No, there was no culture shock at all. Yeah, there was. There was a lot of culture shock. It was freaky scary. But it's okay because God had his hand in all of that too and used all of those pieces along the way, including my first career being with Aid Association for Lutherans, now Thrivent. He's just built all of those things upon the others, and I love to see how he weaves that all together to make his plan happen. And that's really, he's just been such a part of this all along, of weaving the plan together. And I think that's why I love my new career, so new, it's not new, why I love this job best ever, because I get to use all those pieces and I help you get to weave your life around and take care of your family and ministry and all of that. So it's an awesome opportunity. The LCMS Foundation, which is who I work for, the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod Foundation, we are a separate organization from the LCMS, but we are related. So we have our own board, we have our own president, separate entity but related. We were founded in 1958 by synodical resolution to do two things. We're charged with two things. One is to help organizations, churches, universities, ministries invest their money, because maybe they don't have people on their staff that's their expertise. So we can bring that expertise to the table for them. And the other piece, my favorite part, is the gift planning. That's the other thing we're charged with doing, sitting down with families, helping them take a look at the blessings that God has poured out upon them and find the best way to share that with the family they love and the ministries they care about. And that's what we're going to kind of unpack today, is transfer the blessings, a lifetime plan for giving. What is God saying to you, and how do you use it best to impact the kingdom? So the LCMS Foundation is the only LCMS organization that offers you comprehensive, biblically based charitable expertise in the area of gift planning, meaning what I do is help you make the best gifts to your family and the ministries you care about. In 2024, the LCMS Foundation distributed 3,181 gifts amounting to $62 million to ministries throughout the church, universities, seminaries, day schools, congregations, camp ministries, human service ministries, and others. $62 million in 1 year. That's what we do. That's what you do, and what we get the privilege of helping you do. Also in 24, we helped families organize 850 new gifts that will be future gifts to come down the road at almost $145 million. Sitting down across the table, that's my fun, helping you take a look at blessing your family and the ministries you care about. That might be with a donor-advised fund. It might be an endowment fund. It might be a beneficiary. All of those things. And don't worry if you don't know what any of those words were or are. It's okay. That's my job. If in our discussions it becomes apparent to me that that might be something you need to know more about, I'll unpack it with you and we'll figure it all out. And along the way today, too, ask questions if you have them. That's not a problem at all. In fact, that's the next slide. Although that looks like when I was trying to read one of the hymns today, I couldn't see it. I was like, ooh, obviously I have a little contrast issue in my own slide. So what is gift planning? What is estate planning? That's one of the things we're going to uncover today. Why do you need an estate plan or a gift plan? What keeps us from doing it? How can Teresa help you? How can the LCMS Foundation help? And then how do I get started? And what are your questions? Feel free at any point to interrupt, ask the questions. That's fine. That's what I'm here for. It might sidetrack me, but that's okay. We can get off the bunny trail and come back. It's not a problem. So, all right. So our job, God has tasked us with managing all the gifts he has given us. And that's a big job. He places a lot responsibility on each of your shoulders as his children. So this is about stewardship. What is God asking us to do? So if you will, read with me from Psalm 24. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. It's all God's. All of this beauty, whether it's the lake or the snow or the clouds, this building, it's all God's. And what has he charged us with doing? So Genesis 2:15 says, the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. That's what he wants us to do. Take care of these blessings that he has poured out upon us. So how does he want us to do that? I think it's different for each one of us. So, okay, as we unpack, transfer the blessings, estate planning. What's estate planning? It's organizing things so that you can manage them well. It is putting things together. It might be, as Pastor Ron talked this morning, for those of you that were at early service, power of attorney. So there's someone there that can make decisions for you if you're not able to. That's important, because if your family has to do it after the fact, it gets really expensive for them to go to court and get permission to make those decisions. If you can get it put in place ahead of time for them, you can save them money, frustrations, challenges for the doctors because they don't know what you would want. And then when it comes to end-of-life things, it really takes the burden off of your family because you've put the plans together. They know what your wishes are, so you're making it easier for them. I was at a presentation a couple years ago, and someone said that there are 175 questions that you will have to answer in the first 3 days after a loved one passes away. It's a lot. It's overwhelming. So by having a plan in place, you reduce some of that burden for your family because some of those decisions are already made. And we'll walk through some of that to help you with some of those things as well. Gift planning. the fun part, my part. That is taking a look at the assets and the blessings God has given you and picking out the best ones to share with your family and the best ones to share with ministry. Many times when I sit down with a family, they're like, oh, Teresa, I've got this life insurance policy for Christ the King. It's going to be a beautiful gift. And it is a beautiful gift. I mean, a life insurance policy makes a great gift. So then I ask, though, but what are you doing with your retirement assets, your IRAs? Oh, that's my largest asset, so that's going to my kids. Oh, have you thought about that? Did you know when your kids inherit your traditional IRA, they have to pay income tax on all of that? Life insurance passes to your family tax-free. Maybe always when you give ministry tax money from your IRA, it's tax-free to ministry. They don't have to pay any of the income taxes. So sometimes using a portion of your IRA, or maybe it's all of it, to give to ministry is an even better gift for your family because they don't have the tax burden. So we look at ways to make the best use of those blessings God has given you. How do we pass those along? Now, last night we were asked to give money. That was part of what it was all about. That gala was a lot of fun, and it was about fundraising for the school so that they can continue to share Jesus Christ. When we think about that type of giving, we usually think about what's in our checking and our savings account. What kind of check can I write out? Well, today, statistics show that only 2% of our assets are in cash. So if I'm asking you for a big gift, to ask for cash probably isn't the best bucket to be looking in. Where most of our assets, and I bet for many of you, your brains are clicking and it goes, oh yeah, I don't have a lot of cash, but I've got retirement accounts, I've got real estate, I've got my home, life insurance, all of those things. That's 98% of where your money is today. So we're going to take a look at that, and what does that mean for passing it on to your family and ministry? Everything that we possess is a gift from God. So read with me from Ephesians now, if you would, please. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. So there's things that he's already designed for us to do. We get to sweep them off, uncover them, and listen to his voice as to what it is he wants us to do. Lifetime plan for giving. Let's unpack that. So that's my job, is to help you with that. The LCMS Foundation, that's what we do. And to me, the most important, well, hopefully to all of us, and definitely to God, the most important thing we can pass on to our families is our faith. We can, you may have millions in the bank, or you may have very little in the bank, and it isn't going to make or break or get your children to heaven if they receive that. But if they know Jesus Christ is their Savior, that's the ticket. That's the answer. That's what gets them to heaven. They need to know Jesus. And so one of the first things I'm going to challenge you to do, and in that blue packet that my handsome assistant provided you, is on the right-hand side are some sample family blessing letters. And those are just ideas, kickstarters to get your brain thinking. Write a letter to your family. Let them know how much you love them, how much you love Jesus, your desire for them to be in heaven with you. If we accomplish nothing else, that is primary. Leave that love letter to your family. But then beyond that, the next thing we're going to talk about is, what's a gift plan for your family? What are the best assets to give them? How do you give them to them? Is it over time? Is it all at once? Pop quiz. So if your children or you were to inherit money, a gift, how long do you think that money would last? What do statistics show? Anybody got a guess? Not long. 2 years, 1 year, 12 to 18 months, gone. It doesn't matter if it's 5,000 or 5 million, 12 to 18 months and it's gone. Because we've never had it before. I mean, we can buy some pretty cool toys. We can throw some pretty awesome parties, and it's gone. So how do we protect our children? How do we protect ministry? Because sometimes ministry doesn't behave all that differently than our children. All right, so how do we protect them? What are we going to do? And those are some of the things we're going to unpack, take a look at of opportunities you have to protect your children. And, and sometimes that protection is maybe you have a special needs child or grandchild. And we need to set up ways to protect the benefits that they receive already so they don't lose those if they receive an inheritance. Maybe there's an addiction issue or there's a messy divorce going on, and those aren't things we want or desire for our families, but as Pastor Ron said, God uses those to grow us up. He uses those hard times to bring changes. Well, how do we protect to make sure we get those opportunities to grow up in the Lord while we're doing this? So that's some of what we're going to unpack as well. The Lifetime Plan for Giving process, Transfer the Blessings, Lifetime Plan for Giving process is a 4-step process. First one is discovery. That's where we get to know each other. We find out, we kind of do an inventory. What are the blessings God has poured out in your life? How many children, grandchildren? Now, for Dean and I, there are no children or grandchildren, but there's a whole lot of nieces and nephews. That man's got kiddos. Whoa. I don't have so many. I only have 2. He's got 20. How do you bless them, though? What do we do? How do we do that? How many kiddos do you have? Grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Those are blessings from God. Maybe there's nieces and nephews in your lives. What are the financial assets that God has given you? What do those look like? What do they consist of? How do they pass to the next generation? Maybe they're not a good gift for the next generation. Maybe you have something else planned for them. Maybe you have a young partner in your business that's going to want some of those things. How do we do that? What do we do with it? What are your goals? What is it that God's already placed upon your heart to do for Him, to make a difference in the kingdom? So we look at all of those things, talk a lot. I should tell you, everything that we're going to talk about is kept completely confidential. Nobody knows we're meeting unless you tell them about it. Now, granted, if we meet here at church, okay, they kind of figure out that we're talking. But that's okay. None of the details will be talked about, released, shared, not what we do. So I will keep that all confidential for you. That's important. I mean, these are private matters, so that is how that works. Okay, so we gather all that information. Teresa runs it through a computer program, prays over it, looks at it. The next time we get together, I'm going to bring back a snapshot. If you pass away today, this is what it will look like. This is what your family's going to get. There's 3 places your estate can go. So it can go to your family, it can go to Uncle Sam, the IRS, or it can go to ministries and charities that you love and hold near and dear to your heart. So we look at what those 3 things, those pieces are going to get. We think about it, we talk about it, we pray about it, we dig deeper into it. Once you've decided, hey, I think this makes sense for me and my family, we put together a summary or a to-do list that you're going to take to the attorney for them to prepare your estate documents. Power of attorney, will, trust, whatever it is that you need to have put in place. If any of those documents happen to be charitable documents, maybe you include a personal endowment fund, a charitable remainder trust, those items the LCMS Foundation attorneys draft for you free of charge. We just ask you to take them to your attorney for review. So it saves you a bunch of money there if you're using any of those. So we put the summary together. Off you go to the attorney. I join you at your second attorney meeting when you're going to sign everything. I bring all the charitable documents to sign. And then we get down to work. We sign, we date, we put it all in place. But then kind of comes the work part. You have to make sure all your assets are pointed in the direction they're supposed to be, whether it's a beneficiary designation, whether it's having your trust own those. I will help you, along with your attorney, make sure all that happens. My job is to make sure all your I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And I will keep visiting with you until I know that's done. Because that's what if we don't take care of those details, we might as well not have done any of it, because it all matters. As I said from the beginning, the faith in Christ is the most important. We keep Jesus at the center of this. All of our meetings will be covered in prayer. We will spend time talking about what he wants us to do, what he wants you to do, and where he's guiding me to help you, both today, tomorrow, and forever. So, any questions so far? Okay. So why don't we all have plans in place? If we divide this room in half, statistics say this half of the room has a plan. They've got their will in place. This half of the room, none of you have taken the time to get it done yet. I can tell you that the state of Missouri has a will for you, whether you do one or not. I am pretty certain Christ the King will not be included in that will. I am pretty certain that they will name who's going to handle your affairs for you. Now, sometimes the people that step forward to do that are not the best prospects for that position. It might be the child that wants a little control. And so they'll say, "Oh, Judge, I'll do that for my parents. That's no problem." So you get more control, you get more choice. That's probably the better word. You get the choice when you put together your own documents. So why don't we? It's complicated. It is. Sitting across the desk from an attorney can be scary because they fire questions at you and think you know what they're talking about, and sometimes we don't even know the words they're using, let alone how to answer those questions. So we're going to work through a lot of that ahead of time so that you are comfortable with answering those questions. We have to admit we're going to die. We don't really like to do that. I don't have anything. Why? What could I possibly leave to the Lord? But you know what? He has blessed us all in different manners, and whether the gift is small or large, he uses it, he blesses it, and he makes a difference with it. We've seen that in our lives time and time again, haven't we? Yeah. Too young, doesn't matter. Yes, it does. We never know when he is going to call us. And when we're younger and there's kids, we definitely want to be the one choosing the guardians to finish raising those children if we're not going to be here to do it. Maybe that isn't most of you, but you've probably got kids, children or grandchildren that are in that situation. So encourage them too. Everything I do is free of charge. You have to pay the attorney when you go there, but everything I do is free of charge, and I'm here to help any of your family as well. We're too busy, and we're busy. There's a lot going on, but we still have to find time to get it done. And attorneys can be expensive. The beauty in estate planning, most of them run a flat fee system. So going in, it's going to be about X number of dollars. We've also worked with several here at the lake now. So we've got a small network that we work with that take really good care of the members here at Christ the King. And a few people have chosen to drive into St. Louis and use attorneys there. I have a larger network there of attorneys that we work with on a pretty regular basis too. So what can I do to help? As I've already said, confidential, no fees, and keeping what you want, what God's telling you, keeping you at the heart of your plan. That's what we're all about, making that difference, taking care of your family. So what are we going to do? We're going to organize your information. There's a survey that you'll fill out. I'm going to give you some ideas about how to help you meet your goals. What ways might be available to you to make an impact? I will help you interact with the attorney. I'll chase those crazy details till you probably want to tell me to stop chasing them, but they all need to be done, so I'll keep chasing them. And I will encourage you. It really isn't a bad process. It's really not that scary. We're just going to take it one step at a time and make a difference for you and your family and the ministries you care about. So there are a lot of tools that you can use to make this difference. One of those is a bequest, and that's just a simple gift to ministry. There are personal endowment funds. So that's setting up a fund that's going to provide ongoing support for ministry. So let's just use an example. Maybe you give $1,000 a year to church in your offering. If you take that 1,000, take it times 25. So if you put $25,000 in a personal endowment fund, it will produce $1,000 of income every year. And even after you go to heaven, Christ the King will continue to get your offering every year. Now, maybe you give a little more than that. Maybe you give $10,000 a year. Take that times 25, put $250,000 in an endowment fund. With Christ the King as the beneficiary of that, every year Christ the King gets a $10,000 gift. Just like you're still here in the pew, only you're singing in the heavenly choir now. So there's just some neat ways to make a difference. Donor advised fund. That gives you the tax deduction today, and you bless ministries into the future. Charitable remainder trust, income stream for your family and for ministry. Gift annuity, an income stream for you and then a gift to ministry. All of these are tools that are out there that are available. You may know something about some of them. You may know nothing about any of them, and that's okay. While we're meeting, as we discover that one of those would be good for you or your family, we're going to talk about it more. We'll dig into it deeper so that you understand how it works and what it means for your family. So, we have a partnership with Christ the King. We have an agreement that I will spend 2 to 3 days every month working with Christ the King families. Because of that, if we think about that, if every family here at Christ the King walked through this process, learned how God could bless their family and the ministries, think about the impact that would have for King's Academy, Christ the King, and the kingdom for years to come. Wow. That's impact. And those are some really cute faces that have gotten to know Jesus even better because they're here at Christ the King. All right. Questions, thoughts so far?
Are you going to touch a little bit on, when you have to start taking your R&D?
Oh. How that work?
That R&D come to church as opposed to...
Yeah. That's a great idea. Let's jump out to those IRAs right now. So a traditional IRA you've not paid income taxes on it yet. It's all pre-tax dollars, been growing tax deferred while you've been working, even in early retirement, but then you start to hit those ages. At 70 and a half, it used to be everything started then, but now at 73 and 75, you have to start making what's called required minimum distributions. If you were born before 1960, it's at age 73, you have to start making required minimum distributions from your IRA. That's taxable income to you. If you were born after 1960, it's at age 75. So till they change the rules again, that's where we're at. And that's just, that's how that goes. And I'll keep you posted as I can as to what the new rules are. But what Kevin was talking about, so at 70 and a half, you can start making withdrawals from your traditional IRA. Give that money directly to Christ the King. Okay, it doesn't come to you and then you give it to Christ the King. It goes right from Fidelity, we'll say, that's your investment company, to Christ the King. That money, you don't have to pay income taxes on it, and Christ King gets up. If you give $10,000, they get $10,000. No income tax paid. Okay? So you can start that at 70 and a half. At 73, when you have to start taking those required minimum distributions, then it is a double help, because you can count that gift as your required minimum distribution for the year. You have to take $5,000 out of your IRA. That would be income to you. But if you give it directly to Christ the King, and there's just a letter that Fidelity would have you fill out. If they don't have their own, I've got one for you. Goes straight to Christ the King, meets your required minimum distribution, and you don't have to pay income taxes on it, and the church gets it tax-free.
You can start at age 70 and a half.
Correct.
But there's a better, so at age 73 though, then you can, that's a little different.
Well, so at 70 and a half, you don't have to take any money out. You can just leave it in there growing tax deferred. But at 73, when you have to start taking it out, then if you use it for your ministry gift, it checks off that required minimum distribution you had to do. You don't have to pay taxes on it, and you bless ministry. So, yeah, Bobby.
Well, the other thing it does is, because it's not on the front of your tax return, it's not adding to your adjusted gross income, which would increase your Medicare premium.
Correct. Yes, thank you.
It's your deduction for it, but it's not on the front of your return.
So, right, because as you all probably know, your Medicare premiums are based on how much money you make. So, not having this count as income is a good thing because it keeps your income lower. Thank you. If you don't know, she's a CPA, so she knows this stuff. We have some interesting conversations over this kind of stuff when we're hanging out. So, yeah, so an IRA gift like that is a really cool gift. So, thank you for bringing that up, Kevin. Let's see, are there any? The piece on that, you can do up to $108,000 a year as an IRA gift. They have put inflation riders on it, so it now keeps going up and up and up. And it's $108,000 in 2025. It was $105 last year. So, okay. So what I've got now are a couple of examples. Jerry and Susan want to avoid a lump sum distribution of their tax-deferred assets for their children, and they want to include a gift to their favorite ministries. Tax-deferred assets, as we talked a little bit earlier, aren't necessarily the best gift for your children because they're going to have to pay income taxes on it. Today's law requires that they withdraw your entire pre-tax retirement assets in 10 years. So if you have $500,000 in there, that's $50,000 a year. If you've got $200,000, it's $20,000 a year. That's a pretty big chunk in their income. And there's a whole lot of calculations and stuff that goes with that. They have required minimum distributions. It isn't just 20, 20, 20, 20 or whatever. But that's an easier math problem for the non-CPA. But So what does that look like? They have to pay federal estate, they have to pay federal income tax, they have to pay state income tax on that when it goes directly to your children and grandchildren. So Jerry and Susan are going to take a look at a charitable remainder trust for their retirement assets. Their estate is about $800,000. $200,000 of that is in an IRA. So they're going to give $600,000 to their children right away. That $200,000 they are going to put into a charitable remainder trust. That trust pays an income stream to their children for 20 years. So they get to break that 10-year law. Now they get the gift over 20 years. Spreads the taxation out, spreads the gift out. And I think for most people, the really, really cool part about this, you spread the gift out to the family. Family gets $200,000, but you've still got $200,000 that you get to give to ministry. So you get to give that money away twice. Once to your family over time, once to ministry at the end of that 20 years. Now, those assets to the kid, those gifts to the children are taxable, but again, it's spread out over time instead of $200,000 into their income all at once. Because statistics show while they can spread that out over 10 years, most of them don't. 85% of people take those IRA assets as a lump sum asset. So $200,000, chopping a third off of that, $70,000 goes to Uncle Sam and $130,000 goes to the kids. That's maybe not the best gift. I don't know. I don't like to give Uncle Sam too many gifts. So that's one way that we can talk about more if that's something that makes sense in your plan. Ken and Marion, on the other hand, they have a rental property. And I know there's a lot of rental properties here at the lake. So maybe some of you have those too. And eventually, I always hear people say, I'm really done. I don't want one more 2 a.m. toilet phone call. I'm done. Or whatever it is. They're tired of taking care of that rental property. Maybe that rental property is a business building and it's just gotten to be more than they want to deal with. So for Ken and Marion, what they decided, so they don't need that income from the rental properties, they want to take advantage of a tax-free transfer because a lot of times those properties have been depreciated, cost basis goes way down, and that's all taxy stuff. I'm not a tax person, but I know enough to give you some questions to ask your tax advisor. Ken and Marion don't want to make the gift all at once. They want to make gifts over time. They want to make gifts to several ministries. They want to encourage their children's philanthropic giving as well. Plus, a charitable deduction is nice. So what Ken and Marion did, they have this rental property worth $100,000. They give it today. They avoid the capital gains tax when they give it. It goes into a donor-advised fund that they get to charitably deduct, and then they make ministry gifts to the ministries of their choice for as long as they want to. They can give it all at once. They can give it over 10 years. They can do a little bit now and then a little bit down the road. Maybe they even set it up so that, and this was Ken and Marion's intention, that there would be funds left in there when they go to heaven. And then their kids get to get involved and help give that away. So a donor-advised fund can be a great way to get your family involved in helping make those decisions and giving that money away. They can go to, you don't have to be passing away to set up a donor-advised fund. You can do that today. All right, so the kids still got the $500,000 in inheritance. Ministry got the $100,000 over time from the donor-advised fund. All right, questions, thoughts? Okay, Well, my joy, my thrill, my honor would be to work with you through your gift plan. Help you take a look at it, unpack it, figure out what's going to be best for your family. That's what I get to do. I get to work with God's most generous people. And it is so much fun to find ways for you to make a difference. So if you would now, each of you were given an evaluation form, just that 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. I don't do cold calls, so you have to tell me if you want to meet with me. If you'd fill that form out, even if you don't want to meet with me, please fill out that form. Down at the bottom, though, there's like 4 questions. One is, I thought the presentation was helpful. You can check that if you thought it was. The second one says, I don't have a will, but I would like to make one, or a trust. If you need to get a plan in place, check that one. I'll give you a call. We'll set up a convenient time the next time I'm back down at the lake, which right now I'm shooting for March 18 and 19 to be back here. That'll give you some time to do some homework. It'll give me time to get ready, and we'll sit down together and start working on putting the plan together so you can go to the attorney for a will. The third line says, I have a will, but it probably needs to be updated. Many of us sit in that situation. You would be surprised how many times I sit down with a family and their last will was done in 1975. It might need a little dusting. Chances are the kids don't need a guardian anymore. The person that they named may not be able to provide the services of what a personal representative would do, selling property, collecting all the assets in, distributing them. Happy to review. And there's law changes. Things change all the time, especially in those powers of attorney. Those laws change, and so if yours is more than 5 years old, it needs to be reviewed. If it's more than 10, it needs to be redone. There are new laws, especially all that HIPAA stuff. That affected all of that, so we got to get those updated. Then the last box, the last line is, my plan's in good shape, but I don't have a charitable piece, and I would like to explore the charitable piece. Check that one. If that's your answer, we'll get together. We'll talk about it. We'll take a look at it. There is no obligation to make a ministry gift. God will speak to your heart if that's the case, and He'll really guide us through this as to how best to bless your family and the ministries you care about. You're going to notice you're going to get a funny phone call. It's going to say Iowa cell phone when it pops up on your screen when I call you to set that appointment. So just be forewarned. It's really not a typo. It is 319, not 314. But yeah, or put that in your cell phone so it pops up and tells you it's Teresa Nelson calling when you get that call. Or stop out at the table and we can pull up my calendar and set something right now. So, other questions? Kevin, that was a great point. Other ideas, thoughts, questions people might have? Well, I would be honored to work with any and all of you. I love what I do, and what a fun excuse to come to the lake. Everybody's like, I'm so jealous you're going to the lake. And I'm like, but guys, for the most part, I really work the whole time I'm there. I don't get to enjoy it, but once in a while I sneak out and get to enjoy your beauty, and I love it. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here today, to be with you. And you can, oh yeah, Bobby. Yes, great. Thank you. Yeah.
When you have your real estate TOD to your kids, who's still the tax liability?
So that's a great question. So TOD, real estate to kids, they avoid the capital gains tax. I mean, that's the beauty of passing assets at death. They get the stepped up in cost basis. So they don't have to pay the capital gains taxes on it. the bigger challenge of TODing your property to your children, maybe you have one, then it's easy, TOD it to them, that's okay. But if you have two, and they happen to be married in the state of Missouri, then 4 people have to agree upon the price to sell it. 4 people have to sign all the paperwork to sell it. And it avoids taxation. They get stepped up basis, but they have to play nice to get it sold. And your kids may be best of friends and they play nice every day. Death brings out not nice things sometimes. The Satan loves to use that as an opportunity for cat claws and fangs to come out. So just a caution on TODing property to family. Yeah.
Is it not true, my husband died 3.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, before he had died, we had a farm.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan was concerned that if something happened to me where I was put in a nursing home, they could take the farm. And so we then made a transfer, and he now owns the farm.
Okay.
And you have to do that 5 years before you die, and then it does become his completely and legally. That's something else that you need to think about.
Right.
The government will come and take it.
So right, and I don't want to get too far into the tax stuff because my boss will slap my hand. I learn along the way, and you're right. I think the key to what Len just said, there's a 5-year look back. So you're getting older, you're going to be headed for the nursing home next year because your name's on the list. So you decide to give all your assets to your kids today. Well, the government says, no, you can't do that because you did that to avoid paying these bills. We can look back over the last 5 years and make that money come back. So they can take it back from your children or the ministry you gave it to. The other piece of that puzzle you really have to explore, you can only gift to your family $18,000 each year without setting up gift tax situations. Gift tax situations come in down the road. We're getting into CPA talk and attorney talk. So there's cautions to gifting a property to a family member in a big chunk. You just have to make sure all the paperwork and all the consequences get reviewed. But yes, it does, giving it away does protect it from the nursing home taking it to pay your bills. But sometimes paying those bills isn't all bad because being on Medicaid, there's only so many beds, you have a harder time finding a bed. The workers are not supposed to know who's on Medicaid and who's personal pay. I'm not sure that's true. I mean, it is the law, but so. Any other questions before I go down a further rabbit hole there and get myself in trouble? Awesome. Well, thank you all for being here. If you've got your evaluation, you can hand it to me. You can hand it to Dean. You can put it up here on the pew, and I will be in touch as you have directed me. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pastor Ron and Bobby, for making it happen.